Alright, bro. So 2024, Alber 23, Brody, Alpha 23, Bravo. Finally finished that Wittgenstein and Weissenstein video. Alright, so that's the last one. Driving from Weissenstein, Österreich, to Augsburg, Deutschland. That was the last one. We looked at Pinker's reasons for why Leibniz's logical utopia won't exist. We weren't super convinced by the third one. The first one we were like, yeah, but still. And then the second one we were like, I guess. But the third one we were not. We were not revoiced by. We were not re-edited by. I had a big problem with my titles, couldn't export. So anyway. Alright, so section. Logical computation versus pattern association. Okay, so basically, right now, because I think this is like a 10-minute video, I think this is going to be like one of the 10-minute drives from this year. So that means that we are going to just be finishing chapter 3, and this chapter that we've been in is logic and critical thinking. And now we are in the last section, so very exciting for this application. Let's go. Section, logical computation versus pattern association. Holy shit, that's exciting. Yo, that's a great way. Pattern association, some kind of an association matrix is a much better way to describe the brain than sort of rational computation. And the associations that we have, the ones that were selected and favored by evolution, just imitate computation. That's a great way to put it. So we are associative machines, not computational. I mean, you could say that for anything. You could even say that nobody but God is actually sort of reasoning as a first cause machine, able to unprompted apply certain logical rules to subjects. Whereas us, it's an association. In every association, it's triggered by either an original stimulus from outside or something that it was associated with. I had no idea what he's going to say, but that is good. I don't know, maybe whether, yeah, okay. If many of our judgments are too squishy to be captured in logic, how do we think at all? Without the guardrails of necessary and sufficient conditions, how do we come to agree that football is a sport and Kris Jenner is a mother and House Republicans notwithstanding, pizza isn't a vegetable? If rationality is not implemented in the mind as a list of propositions in a chain of logical rules, how is it implemented? My boy. Now, I don't feel like you actually drove that point home in the previous sections. You're supposing that. Now you're asking us to suppose that. I don't feel like you convinced us of that. I'm with you, brother, but I'm just talking about. So if rationality is not implemented in the mind as a list of propositions and a chain of logical rules, how is it implemented? Well, it's implemented. All right, so that's fantastic. But I really don't think. Can you guys give me some pages where he demonstrated that and like convinced a human brain that he made some effort to convince his reader that rationality is not implemented in the mind as a list of propositions in a chain of logical rules? I mean, there's stuff that he said that is in support of that, but because if he did have sections where that was his point, I was misunderstanding his point. All right, anyway, we got to get through this. Okay. But, all right, one answer may be found in the family of cognitive models called pattern associators, perceptrons, connectionist nets, parallel distributed processing models, artificial neural networks, and deep learning systems. The key idea is that rather than manipulating strings of symbols with rules, an intelligent system can aggregate tens, thousands, or millions of graded signals, each capturing the degree to which a property is present. And I've said we have hundreds of thousands of these its. Not sure I fully understand the graded signals thing. So it might only be the number that we have in common, sort of. No, that's right. Yeah. Each capturing the degree to which a property is present. So every it only has one job, and it's to respond to this one particular thing. It can be the color in this quadrant of the visual whatever, this, this point. And so then the more it's that you have saying a certain thing, well, now you've got a graded system. If you only have one it saying this thing, there's blue, for instance, and it going, there's blue. Its only job was if at point 350 comma -5 there is blue, then, well, I tell my dudes that there's blue. And then when you get a bunch of these that have been triggered, because not only at that point, but another and then another, well, now you're able to have different quantities of blue and, all right, let's let Pinker do it, obviously. Okay. Take the surprisingly contentious concept vegetable. It's clearly a family resemblance category. There is no Linnaean taxon that includes carrots, fiddleheads, and mushrooms. No type of plant organ that embraces broccoli, spinach, potatoes, celery, peas, and eggplant. Not even a distinctive taste or color or texture, but as with the Kardashians, we tend to know vegetables when we see them because overlapping traits run through the different members of the family. It's starting to occur to me that not all the things, but as far as the whole Wittgenstein and family resemblance and all that thing, my objections to what he was saying is where he was actually going with it, it seems to me. So, just gonna. All right. But as with the Kardashians, I've already read this, okay. Whatever. But as with the Kardashians, we tend to know vegetables when we see them because overlapping traits run through the different members of the family. Lettuce is green and crisp and leafy. Spinach is green and leafy. Celery is green and crisp. Red cabbage is red and leafy. The greater the number of veggie-like traits something has, and the more definitively it has them, the more apt we are to call it a vegetable. Lettuce is a vegetable par excellence. Parsley, not so much. Garlic, still less. Page 103. Conversely, certain traits militate against something being a vegetable. While some vegetables verge on sweetness, like acorn squash, once a plant part gets too sweet, like a cantaloupe, we call it a fruit instead. And though portobello mushrooms are meaty and spaghetti squash is pasta-like, anything made from animal flesh or flour dough is blackballed. Bye-bye, pizza. This means we can capture vegetableness in a complicated statistical formula. Each of an item's traits, its greenness, its crunchiness, its sweetness, its doughiness, is quantified and then multiplied by numerical weight that reflects how diagnostic that trait is of the category. High positive for greenness, lower positive for crispness, low negative for sweetness, high negative for doughiness. Then the weighted values are added up, and if the sum exceeds a threshold, we say it's a vegetable, with higher numbers indicating better examples. And yeah, so when I said in the other video, so what about like a checklist type definition?